Seachta Aodhan ORiordain. Jen Nomid.
Thanks to Las Concordia, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the Legal Services Bill and the Minister for his attendance and taking these points on board. I suppose a properly constituted legal profession is what a republic is all about, and people need to feel as if our justice system is even-handed, is representative of the people, and that people have that essential trust in the judiciary and the legal system. I suppose we didn't need to be told by the Troika that there's problems within our legal services, and I congratulate the Minister for his reforming zeal in this area, because it's from somebody who doesn't come from a legal background. The perception that would exist is that the practices of law in this state are done by an elite who've gone to certain schools, who have a particular mindset, who certainly flex their muscles whenever anybody suggests that there is need for reform in how they do their business. And that came to light quite, starkly, I suppose, before the referenda that took place there late last year, when a letter bomb was sent to the Irish Times about a week before a referendum that would, in the minds of the attorneys general or previous attorneys general, would interfere with the independence of the judiciary, and they got very excited about it. And I suppose what we need to do is, if we're serious about reform in this republic, is that there cannot be any more sacred cows, that everything has to be tested, everything has to be investigated, and everything has to be up for renewal and reform. So I would hope that the judiciary and the legal profession would understand that what is being attempted here by government is an attempt to bring the legal profession into the 21st century, to make it more accountable, to make it more real, to make it rooted in a society that needs it, but it's not the reserve of those who have particular backgrounds and, as I say, had a particular style of education, who dominate the corridors of the forecourts and other courts up and down this land, that they are the only ones who have authority in terms of discussing these issues. However, having said that, and I know the Northside Community Law Centre have been mentioned here previously, many of us deputies have been taking consultations on this, and there are a number of concerns. I know the Minister will take these concerns on board. I think it's only reasonable that we would make sure that anything that we do enshrine into law in this House will not need to be corrected at a later date. So in terms of the independence, which is the common criticism of any attempt to reform the legal profession, there are concerns about the new regulatory authority and the independence of that regulatory authority, and a perceived suggestion from outside that that appointment of members and of the authority and the control which the Minister would have in relation to many of its functions. I think if this is something that is a myth, then it needs to be exposed as such. But certainly we would not want accusations or suggestions or arguments be made which don't have any grounding in reality. But in terms of the overarching body that would actually be the regulatory authority, I think certainly, Minister, we need to nail that one. And if there are concerns, that we need to meet them. And if there is a question mark over independence, we need to rise to that challenge. We cannot, in reforming, we cannot be seen to creating more problems for ourselves. And certainly that is an argument which has some validity in many ways, and certainly I think is something we should take on board. In terms of the access to justice issue, which has also been raised, and the multidisciplinary practices, there is a concern certainly that this would not lead to an opening up of the legal profession. In fact, it would actually lead to a closing down of the legal profession. Access to law and access to the corridors of justice, if you like, access to fair representation and access to being equal under the eyes of the law is absolutely crucial in a republic. And anybody who walks into the forecourts any day of the week will see effectively what you have is people in pinstripe suits, sending people in tracksuits down. and it is a grotesque reality of what happens in our republic, where the biggest crime in this state is to be poor, and it's the only thing that we ever seem to criminalise. And the statistics within any of our major prisons would bear that out, and the literacy levels of those who inhabit our penal institutions would bear that out as well. And the only thing that we seem to get excited about is our crimes of those who come from certain backgrounds and are in certain situations of desperation. As a result of which, access, therefore, to law and to legal representation is absolutely key. And I would ask the Minister just to re-examine these MDPs or multidisciplinary practices, if these are going to improve access to those of lesser means, or if they will actually unintentionally provide a barrier. And I don't think we really have the option of seeing how it'll work out, because access to law and to legal representation is so fragile at the moment. The sense among many parts of our society that they don't have justice, that justice doesn't serve them, that this republic does not look after them, is acute. And if we are seen to bring in a new strand which essentially will compound that, then I think this reform will be something that will only make things worse, and the perception in certain communities as to their chance for fair play will be completely undermined. So while congratulating the Minister on what he is trying to do, and he certainly is taking on some vested interests who we have seen in the past don't like to be taken on, I think the key to this is to make sure that we don't do anything that can undermine the totality of the bill, and that we ensure that the independence in terms of the overarching regulatory authority is maintained, and that these multidisciplinary practices are constituted in a way, if they are to be constituted, that will not in any way inhibit the access of those of lesser means to proper representation, which is the least that anybody could expect in a modern day republic.